Hello guys and welcome to my new video, and patch 9.2 has officially been announced, and today we're going to be ranking every single healing spec in Mythic Plus based on my 9.2 PTR testing. I've tested every single healer, different covenants, different specs, and these are my thoughts. Now before we're gonna go further in the video, a mandatory disclaimer: a lot of these tier lists, a lot of these class discussions are based on coordinated high-end Mythic Plus push groups, but in this video I'll try to also take into account healers that are friendly towards pug environment, healers that are easier to play or pick up for new players. So keep that in mind. There's going to be a mixture of high-end performance and healers that are just generally pretty good to start off healing. And keep in mind, all of these videos take me ages to make and produce, so if you enjoyed the video, please like and subscribe. It really helps out the channel. So before we're gonna go to the tier list, we have to look at what's changing in Mythic Plus, and that is going to be the seasonal affix, of course. Encrypted is going to replace Tormented, and Encrypted is a pretty good affix. I've heard a lot of people have mixed opinions, but generally speaking, it is a kiss curse affix. You're going to do something that you don't want, kill certain mobs, but you're going to get a bunch of buffs for doing that. But there are certain buffs that are people preferring in Mythic Plus. We'll have to see if that's going to change, but right now is a really popular type of buff to get, or a mob to kill, in order to get 200% cooldown reduction for 10 seconds, which also gives you HP and mana. So this is going to impact certain healer performance, because you're going to get full mana every couple of trash if you do go for You also have other mobs that provide you with haste or damage reduction and stealth, so it's all going to depend on your party. But right now I do feel is a pretty popular option in Mythic Plus, which will impact healer performance because of the mana and the cooldown reduction. And you also have to consider that in 9.2, tanks are probably the winners of the power spike that comes from double legendaries and tier sets, and they do require less healing depending on the build, which might lead to bigger pulls in Mythic Plus, which might impact different healers who have bigger cooldowns in order to accommodate those bigger pulls. And partially these pulls are possible because the new affix Encrypted doesn't really have a big healing check, unlike Tormented had or Prideful. And because of this, you'll hear me talk about healer DPS a lot, because every healer can meet healing checks in Mythic Plus. Every healer provides good amount of HPS, and every healer provides some sort of utility that kind of ties into class fantasy, but not every healer has the same amount of DPS output, and that's why these tier lists a lot of the times will focus on the one factor that is kind of miscued, and that is healer damage. And here is the tier list for Mythic Plus performance, and we're going to start off with Restoration Shaman. Where is there any surprise the Resto Shaman is going to be top of the list? The fact that Resto Shaman gains the most out of double legendaries in terms of DPS, and they have multiple different combinations for double legendaries, has propelled Resto Shaman into another level in terms of Mythic Plus performance and community perception. I'm pretty sure every Resto Shaman checks PTR notes every week and hopes that Vesper Totem has dodged another nerf. And Vesper Totem seems to be the champion of dodging, because Blizzard is not really doing anything about Vesper at this moment. So Kieran Resto Shaman is looking to be like the play to go in Mythic Plus, and there's multiple reasons. First of all, you have Vesper Totem, which ties into healing and DPS combination really well. Kieran is without a doubt the strongest combination in Mythic Plus on PTO right now, and you have multiple different legendaries that you combine with Kyrian. Probably the most popular option is going to be Deep Tremor Stone, which applies Earthquake to your Earth Elemental, which is a 5-minute cooldown. It is relatively easy to use. You just click it and you kind of set a focus to your Earth Elemental, because if it takes some damage, you need to off heal it. In a lot of high-end keys, if you use it during fortified weeks, you have to be very careful if you use it on trash, because if it pulls aggro, it's going to die. But if you use it on bosses, it provides good single target and amazing AoE. Another legend that could also be used is Elemental Equilibrium, which probably will see less play, because a lot of people are going to be put off by the scientific rotation that you need to follow in order to squeeze your Elemental Equilibrium windows, which your Vesper Totem kind of bursts. And because of the rotation that you have to follow every single time you use Vesper Totem, I think people are going to be a little bit scared about it. But if you can min-max this legendary, you can do really significant damage, and it's not that bad if you mess it up, because you can use it every single Vesper window. If you use Deep Tremor Stone and your Earth Elemental dies, it can be quite impactful towards your Mythic Plus performance. Now another legendary could have some impact is Chain Devastation. Chain Devastation legendary is something that I didn't really test that much, because initially Encrypted didn't give you mana. So I was like, Chain Devastation, you have to cast Chain Heal. Unlike the Elemental Shaman legendary version of this, Resto Shaman version does not give you free chain heal, so the mana consumption is gonna go through the roof, but Encrypted basically gives you free full mana bar every couple of trash packs if you do end up killing Encrypted mob. And on top of that, Chain Devastation does have synergy with your tier set, which overall is not that amazing Mythic Plus. So I do have to mention Chain Devastation because it could be the underdog that some people will try out and might fall in love with. Keep in mind that with the new tier set for Restoration Shaman, a lot of the power goes into spamming Chain Heal, and spamming Chain Heal is probably not going to be the play in Mythic Plus, but I think a lot of people over-exaggerate with Chain Devastation in terms of the tier set synergy, because a lot of the times, Chain Heal crits are going to reduce the cooldown of your totems and things like that, which is great, but you will have Cloudburst Totem on cooldown in Mythic Plus, you'll probably have your Stun Totem on cooldown, so if you do run Chain Devastation, the cooldown reduction from Chain Heal crits is probably gonna go into other totems besides Vesper Totem, because last time I checked, Vesper Totem did synergize with the 4-set bonus, which is not necessarily a bad thing, but something to consider when choosing Legendaries and their synergies with the tier set. Overall, the main factor of the tier set that makes it relatively decent or okay in Mythic Plus is the fact that you're going to get free Chain Heals every time you use certain totems, things like Cloudburst Totem, things like Mana Tide Totem, Healing Tide Totem, Spirit Link Totem. And that free Chain Heal is gonna go into your Cloudburst Totem if it's already active. So you are getting a lot of free healing that allows you to provide more healing during heavy healing phases or give you more time to DPS. So just to summarize the power of Restoration Shaman, they have a lot of healing. They're not cooldown dependent healers unlike something like Aventir Holy Paladin. You do run Ascendance, which provides you big healing bursts, but it's not mandatory to meet healing checks. Restoration Shaman already has good continuous healing. They do have a lot of utility. The only healer that provides interrupt, you have Stun Totem, you are ranged, which, believe it or not, can be a big advantage on certain keys. You can decurse, and in PTR service, Restoration Shamans were able to do 7, 8k, maybe even more overall DPS at the end of the dungeon, which is head and shoulders above everyone else. Now, Kyrian, Vesper Totem, Elysian Dirge Conduit was buffed and then reverted back, and a lot of people were confused whether this is going to be a Vesper Totem nerf. It's not. If you're playing Vesper Totem on live servers, it's going to be exactly the same on PTR or in 9.2 if nothing changes. Okay, now let's go to our second healer, and give me a second. I need to inhale a lot of copium here. I need to get a lot of copium, hopium, and guys, this is quite a weird one. Holy Priest. Holy Priest, high A tier, and the reason I'm placing it here because first of all, the community perception is really low for this. It is a very easy healer to pick up and do well in Mythic Plus environment, and also it deserves it. Holy Priest has received some significant buffs to damage and healing. They received a really big buff to Chastise or Holy Word Chastise damage, which is going to impact their overall DPS. And because Holy Priest is arguably the best HPS healer right now in terms of Mythic Plus performance because of how they're dealing with healing. They have multiple synergies right now. I would have to put Restoration Druid somewhere close there as well, but Restoration Druid requires you to anticipate healing situations pre-hot, while Holy Priest sees someone who needs healing, they heal. So why is Holy Priest all of a sudden doing more healing or feel is really powerful in terms of HPS in 9.2? Flash Concentration has been a staple of Holy Priest's arsenal for the whole of Shadowlands. 5 flash heals, your heal now is going to be empowered. This synergizes with your tier set, this synergizes with your Resonant Word Conduit, this synergizes with your Trail of Light talent, and now you have a healer that has to maintain this buff, and your heal is going to be insanely strong, especially when paired up with Holy Word spells. Holy Priest is such a strong HPS healer that running Apotheosis in a lot of the dungeons felt unnecessary in terms of providing additional HPS, and I use Apotheosis to deal more damage. On top of the fact that the tier set also has hidden DPS potential, so in order to not over-explain this because it can be quite difficult, the tier set, the 2-set and 4-set bonus after you use a Holy Word spell, let's say for example in this case, Holy Word Chastise, which damage has been increased, use Holy Word Chastise, and then after that use Smite. Smite is going to be empowered because of the tier set. Smite is also going to provide additional cooldown reduction to your Holy Word spell, Holy Word Chastise, because of the tier set. And now you can use Chastise, Smite. And now you're getting additional cooldown reduction on Chastise, and your Smite is dealing more damage. And you can apply that to a bunch of other healing abilities if you need healing. I also talked about Apotheosis, where I didn't have to use Apotheosis for healing, so I end up using Chastise, Apotheosis. This resets my Holy Word spells. I use Chastise again, and then I spam Smite, which gives me even more cooldown reduction to Chastise, and you can see where I'm going with this. You can optimize your healing cooldowns for DPS. You can optimize your tier set for DPS if you don't need that additional healing, because Flash Concentration is so goddamn strong. But I know there's going to be certain situations where Chad, Holy Priests are going to be like, I don't need additional healing, I'm doing an easy dungeon, I don't need Flash Concentration, I'm gonna pick up Harmonious Apparatus, I'm gonna pick up Double PI to provide more damage because I don't need that healing. So all of a sudden, Holy Priests with Divine Star, with Holy Fire, with Holy Word Chastise with Shadow World Pain. You have a lot of ways of dealing damage on top of the hidden groups DPS potential that you can provide with PI or Power Infusion. My copium is running out a little bit, but Holy Priest on PTR service is probably the second best DPS healer and arguably one of the best HPS healers, depending on whether you run Flash Concentration or not. So in short summary, Holy Priest running Kyrian, Boon of the Senate is very strong in terms of the damage that they provide. If you're running Mechanicus, Effusive Accelerator is going to show up on your DPS logs. All of a sudden, you're running Kyrian, you have a lot of damage, Boon is very strong. If you're running Flash Concentration, you have one of the strongest single target heals that also splash heal with Trail of Light and synergize with your tier set, Resonant Words, Conduit and things like that. Holy Priest is looking like a pretty good healer in 9.2. And honestly, A tier is going to be filled with a lot of healers. I think the healer balance is actually not that bad, but I'll talk about that later on. And that is going to be Holy Paladin. A lot of people are memeing that Holy Paladin is dead. Holy received a lot of changes in 9.2. Honestly, probably had a roller coaster of emotions. You received a big nerf, a buff, and then a nerf again. And overall, if you go through all the changes, there is significant alterations to the playstyle. So first of all, Ventier, Ashen Hallow got nerfed. No kind of surprises here. I think a lot of people wanted Ventier to be kind of brought back in line, which made sense. But then you had some baseline damage nerfs to Holy Paladin, and then you had a really big nerf to Wings, which kind of went down from providing 30% damage and healing and crit to 20%. And this felt really impactful, and Holy Paladins were kind of screaming and being really unhappy. So Blizzard kind of gave a little buff, or at least a 6% overall healing buff to Holy Paladins, which honestly is nothing to be ignored because it does impact your performance, especially until you get your 4 set. But with this healing buff, they also nerfed the tier set, and now it is a lot more random, which provides 50% chance of giving you wings reduction for 2 seconds based on targets hit. But the sky is not falling. I've tested out Holy Paladin, I've tested out multiple Covenants, and honestly, a lot of the Covenants feel pretty good in terms of what they provide. The playstyle is going to be significantly different with the tier set because it does kind of force you to use Light of Dawn in Mythic Plus in order to get cooldown reduction. So let's go to the DPS portion. Holy Paladin has different Covenants, and honestly, Ventier, Necrolord, and Kyrian probably provide the same or similar amount of overall DPS at the end of the dungeon, but the main difference here is Ventier. Ashen Hallow damage profile is a lot more wanted in high-end Mythic Plus keys because you're doing these big huge pulls. For big huge pulls, you want big huge cooldowns. And Ventier Ashen Hallow still fills in that niche because it is a very strong cooldown that provides healing and damage. It has been nerfed, but you will be running the Ventier Covenant specific Legendary, which provides you with quality of life improvements in terms of, hey, I have my Ashen Hallow, my wings is about to run out, and I don't really want to use my Ashen without wings. I'm just going to press the ability again, and it's going to cancel Ashen Hallow. When you compare it to other Covenants, a lot of Covenants like Kyrian and Necrolord provide damage and healing in shorter bursts, so for every trash bag, which is great, but in high-end Mythic Plus pushing, I mentioned, big pulls, big cooldowns are usually what a lot of high-end Mythic Plus pushers want. So this is why I say that Ventier is going to be one of those Covenants that might not be great for pugs. Kyrian, maybe Necrolord is going to be something that's going to provide more burst healing and more burst damage in shorter periods of time, which is more suited towards pugging environment. So this is why I say Ventier Holy Paladin is probably still going to be a very popular option in Mythic Plus high-end push groups. I did run the Mad Paragon for extra damage. I had Ventier Covenant specific Legendary, and I even tested the tier set after it got nerfed, and honestly, it really didn't feel as bad as a lot of people were saying. I actually think it provided a good amount of healing, it provided a good amount of damage, and you're gonna have a mini game that you're going to be playing every time you play Holy Paladin, and that is, can I align my wings with Ashen Hallow? And this can become a little bit convoluted because there's multiple ways that you can achieve that. So first of all, if you use Ashen and let's say your wings run out and you want to remove Ashen, you can remove Ashen and get a shorter cooldown on Ashen, which is great. And then you're gonna have wings, which you can reduce the cooldown of wings by using your tier set, by using Light of Dawn on as many targets as possible, and that includes pets. So if you're running a range heavy comp, you might actually, it's gonna become a little bit difficult to try to get that cooldown reduction on top of the fact that it's not 100% guaranteed. So all the time you're checking, can wings be aligned with Ashen? Can I use enough Light of Dawns to get my wings to align with it again? Do I deactivate my Ashen because I don't have my wings? And then you have the cooldown reduction Encrypted Affix coming into the mix because that is also going to reduce your cooldowns. So it becomes really convoluted, but it's not that hard. It sounds really weird, but After testing it, it doesn't feel that bad in order to try to realign your wings with Ashen, and you're going to get a lot more Ashens throughout the dungeon if you optimize the usage. So you could almost argue that Ventir has become a bit more poke friendly because you can use it more often, you can deactivate it. Cooldown reduction works pretty well with it. On top of the fact that Holy Paladin still provides one of the best healer utility in Mythic Plus in my opinion. It's one of the healers that has immunity, which is really strong on dungeons like Sanguine Depths. You still have Bob, Blessing of Protection, which can be really strong in a lot of dungeons. You have a Disease Dispel. If you're pushing a really high-end Plaguefall key, you need a Disease Dispel, and Holy Paladin has it. So Holy Paladin is not dead. It is still cooldown dependent, but your cooldowns are coming off quicker because of multiple aspects in Mythic Plus and the tier set. It's all about how you're going to align them and if you're going to optimize them. Again, Ventir looks like a really strong one for high-end pushing, and a lot of other covenants look like better options for pugs. Now let's go to our next healer, and that is going to be, press F in chat for this one. Restoration Druid, guys. This healer could have easily been S tier or really high A tier if the Kyrian was not nerfed. And honestly, it was one of the healers that I was looking to main because I really enjoyed the simp build, and I know a lot of people might not like it, but that was looking to be like the main way to go for Resto Druid in high-end Mythic Plus keys, because DPS are scaling really well with tier sets, double legendaries, and anything to buff the DPS output is going to be considerably stronger than buffing healer's damage, because healer damage is not looking to be all that high compared to DPS or even tank DPS in high-end Mythic Plus keys. In terms of covenants, a lot of people are looking at Necrolords because Kyrian was nerfed. I think Kyrian is still very viable in Mythic Plus. I think you can still run it, especially if you can optimize the empowered bonds. But Necrolord with draft legendary is something that a lot of people are testing and they're liking. And I think that is a very fun playstyle. I think Resto Druid overall is a really fun healer that requires a lot from the user. Because when you play a Druid, especially in high-end Mythic Plus, you have to provide multiple things. You have to go in and out of kitty form, Feral Affinity, you have to provide bleeds, you have to provide dots, you have Sunfire, Moonfire, Rip, Rake, and then you provide HOTS. And you need to kind of decide, make split-second decisions. Can I go into kitty form and provide damage, or do I need to focus more on healing? Your overall healing has been buffed, your overall damage has been buffed. So Resto Druid does feel better in Mythic Plus environments. Their damage has been buffed, like I mentioned. Their Sunfire aura has been added very recently. And there is a lot of things to be excited about Resto Druid. In my opinion, Resto Druid, when played correctly, is probably one of the top HPS healers. It just requires you to anticipate damage pre-hot, make sure your mastery is gonna work. You have a tier set that works. Again, the 2 set works with mastery. The 4 set can provide you with burst healing, but can be wasted if you don't optimize your Swiftman usage. So I'm not sure if a lot of people are gonna be running with the 4 set. The 2 set is a no-brainer, works with mastery, applies more hots on people, does more healing. Honestly, Resto Druid is a fun healer. It can do very decent damage. It can do top tier HPS. Resto Druid also has a lot of utility with things like Bile Res. You do have Soothe, you have Vortex, you have multiple different things to help your party. But in my mind, it's always like what could have been if they did not nerf Kyrian. Resto Druid could have definitely been climbing the ranks. The hype for Resto Druid was really high, and I feel like the Kyrian nerf has really diminished that fire in a lot of people to push their Druid. But regardless of that, it is an excellent healer. Now let's go to our next healer, and that is going to be Discipline Priest. And for the first time ever, I'm gonna say, why play Discipline when you can play Holy? Now keep in mind, Discipline Priest is probably one of the most fun healers in my honest opinion, because the whole damage into healing kind of meta has been really popular for every single healer, but Discipline kind of started it all. And I have a lot of fun when playing Discipline Priest, and Discipline Priest still has a lot of things to bring to the table in terms of damage, in terms of healing. Again, you do have the tier set, and the tier set has been, the 2 set has been buffed very recently. Unfortunately, I was not able to test it out on PTR because it wasn't available when I was doing this video, but I have a lot of fun when playing Discipline Priest, and a lot of Discipline Priests are going to be running Kyrian in the Mythic Plus environment because it provides a lot of damage and healing, and it is an ability that is going to, again, have a really short cooldown because you're running with Mechanicos, Effusive and Accelerated, just like a Holy Priest does. So if you're playing a Priest, sticking with Kyrian is really not a bad option in all Mythic Plus environments. On top of the fact, in terms of the second legendaries, not really interesting options. Probably double PI is gonna come out as the top. I do have to mention the Penitent one, which does synergize with your tier set and can be interesting to use. So I feel when Discipline Priest played correctly can be really fun healer. You're weaving in your damaging abilities, you're applying atonements, and your damaging abilities are going to heal the people who have atonement. It feels really good. Until something unexpected happens and someone takes a lot of damage, you need to catch up and you're in the defensive mode. You're spamming Shadowlands, and this whole gameplay of dealing damage and healing through damage goes out the window. You're just spamming Shadowman, you're trying to catch up, And it feels extra bad because your brother or sister spec, Holy Priest, can do that so much better by just casting heal. But regardless of that, Discipline Priest still provides some unique utility, really strong shields through Rapture, which increases the effective HP of a lot of your members, which can save people's life if you're doing really high tyrannical key and someone got selected by an ability that will probably one-shot them. This happens more often than not, and a shield can help you with that. You do have barrier, but it does require stacking, and in Mythic Plus it can be somewhat awkward. Your mana concerns are not going to be that big because of the Encrypted affix, so I do feel Discipline Priest, one of the most fun healers, but at the end of the day, this is the first time I can say this, that if you're looking for an easy way out, easy way to push Mythic Plus keys, you can look at Holy Priest as a really strong alternative. I feel Discipline Priest is going to kind of dominate raiding situations. So if you're a player who's looking to play a healer, you can pick up Priest, dominate Discipline Priest in raids, and then be really strong healer as Holy Priest in Mythic Plus. You're kind of winning both worlds here. And now let's go to the last healer, and that's going to be Mistweaver Monk. Now, where do I play Mistweaver Monk? Mistweaver Monk is looking so... okay. So this one actually really hurts because Mistweaver Monk has had a really poor community perception for actually throughout the whole Shadowlands. I don't think Mistweaver Monk is unplayable healer. I think Mistweaver Monk, you can have really good HPS, you can have decent DPS, but there is certain aspects where Mistweaver falls short, and I kind of mentioned this. The DPS aspect of Mistweaver Monk is quite below everyone else. In terms of the PTR testing, Mistweaver damage is probably the lowest one out of all the healers. In terms of the HPS, in terms of the healing, Mistweaver is actually pretty decent. You have really strong healing, you have strong single target healing through Soothing Mist, Enveloping Mist, Vivify combo, which can be expensive in terms of mana, but hey, Encrypted gives you free mana if you do kill And very recently, Mistweaver's Sinister Teaching Ventier build has been nerfed, and this nerf is 100% only looking at the raids. They were looking at the raid performance and they nerfed this build because Mistweaver did not need any nerfs in Mythic Plus environment. You could argue they needed buffs in order to bring them back in line. The recent Sinister Teaching nerfs have impacted Mistweaver Covenant choice in 9.2 because Ventier might not be the clear option anymore. A lot of people are looking at Necrolord, Bonetooth Brew because of the recent buffs and kind of bug fixes. You might experiment with certain Covenants, and that goes for raiding as well. So the Covenant choice is not that clear in 9.2. In terms of Legendary choices, that's also kind of open to suggestions because you're always going to go with Covenant specific Legendary, let's say Sinister Teachings for Ventier. And then the second legendary, maybe Ancient Teachings of the Monastery for some passive healing through DPS, because Mistweavers are still looking to play Fistweaving build, they're still looking to play Rising Mist, because that is the way to optimize your Mistweaver in Mythic Plus and raid content. You might actually try Invoker's Delight, which is going to give you haste during your Yulon, which is going to be Red Crane in Mythic Plus, which can provide DPS and healing. Or you might look for Tear of Mourning to give you extra HPS during dungeons that require you to pump healing. So there is a lot of options, and I think Mistweavers will be lost at the start of 9.2 depending on which content they want to do and how far they want to push their Mistweaver. The tier set bonus provides only HPS, so no DPS portion to this, and a lot of people either hate it or love it because the 4 set bonus requires you to position yourself correctly, have a correct usage of Thunder Focus Tea because you're gonna get a circle and you need to stand in it, it's gonna buff your heals. So Mistweaver is kind of going through a bit of a roller coaster. They have been punished for their raid performance, and that is kind of trickling down in Mythic Plus. They have the lowest DPS, which again, in this healer DPS meta is quite important. A lot of people, including myself, have been asking for Mistweaver Mythic Plus buffs in terms of damage. Buff their damage. If you're scared about Ancient Teaching the Monastery scaling out of control, you can nerf that. Mistweaver still provides a lot of utility. You do have stuns. You have... Again, I don't really like this argument, but Monk provides 5% physical buff, and a lot of people will justify Mistweaver's overall DPS being lower than every other healer because of that 5% physical buff. This argument goes out the window when you compare Windwalkers in Season 2. Windwalkers were probably the best or single best DPS class in Mythic Plus content with Frost Mages, but Windwalker also provided 5% physical damage buff. So why does Mistweaver, in terms of DPS output, have to suffer? Mistweaver is not unplayable. You can absolutely do well as a Mistweaver in Mythic Plus content. If you enjoy Mistweaver, if you like Fistweaving, you should absolutely stick with Mistweaver because a lot of the times playing a class that you enjoy is going to outweigh all the negatives. I know for a fact the community perception for Mistweavers have been really bad, and I was really hoping that 9.2 might change that. For the overall summary of the video, I know guys this was a really long video, but I really want you to know where I'm coming from in terms of why is this class ranked here? Why is this class strong? Why is this class not as strong? I want you to know how the tier list, how the double legendaries are going to impact them. And again, this is a tier list based on high-end Mythic Plus pushing, but I have taken into account the ease of play or how poke friendly a healer can be, and this is one of the reasons why Holy Priest is ranked quite high, because I think Holy Priest is going to be relatively easy to pick up and do well both in healing and damage. But if you're looking to push DPS, Resto Shaman is the undeniable king. All the other healers, if you look at the balance right now, it's really not that bad. There's only a couple of outlier classes. Resto Shaman is providing too much damage. Mistweaver is providing not enough damage. There could possibly be changes in the future that might impact this. I'm not saying I know what's gonna happen, but I do feel the Resto Shaman Vesper Totem is dodging nerfs every week. I'm not sure how Blizzard feels about Mistweaver or balancing healers in Mythic Plus, because I think they balance healers in raids first, which is very, very disappointing, and I'm gonna do a video later on about that. But I actually hope the Blizzard is not gonna take the path of least resistance and nerf Vesper Totem and just call it a day, because I do think that a buff to all the other classes in terms of damage is going to be the best way to go, because at 9.2 the power spike for healers is not that amazing when it comes to Mythic Plus and Mythic Plus damage. In 9.15 you as a healer could try and keep up with the DPS of something like a tank. In 9.2 tank is gonna double your damage, and I feel the value of a healer is kind of falling, so trying to keep healer DPS in check, or at least comparable to previous patches, could be a good way to go. I don't think Blizzard is that far away from having a solid healer balance, even in high-end Mythic Plus keys. And again, a lot of the times when you look at high-end, you have to consider that players take into account everything. And this is why I talked about DPS, because that's one of the defining factors that separate healers. I'm not sure what Blizzard is going to do in the future. I really want to know your opinions. At the end of the day, I know people are going to use this tier list to base their mains at 9.2. I don't want people to step away from Mistweaver. If you enjoy Mistweaver, stick with a class that you enjoy. Run your own keys. Make a guild group. Find a Mythic Plus push group. Play a class that you like, because that is going to give you, like I mentioned throughout the video, the best value for a subscription. Guys, if you enjoyed this video, I know this was really, really long, like and subscribe. It takes me ages to do these. Let me know how you feel about this list. Let me know if I missed out on something, and I'll see you in my next guide.